you putting your team through a one-size-fits-all approach to mental health first aid? If so, then let me talk to you, because there's a real issue that you need to be aware of. My name is Richard Daniel Curtis. I'm the founder, I'm the creator, I am the person behind mental health courses, and I need to tell you something that most organisations are overlooking and is really important in this modern world. It relates to generic mental health first aid training. Because on the surface, you think you've done the right thing. You've invested in your people, you're raising awareness, you're ticking the box, you're showing the mental health matters. But when you start looking a bit closer, actually there's some real problems with how this training is being delivered. The first issue is that it's not necessarily designed for your workplace. Most mental health first aid training is built around individuals, helping individuals. Is it a course that actually reflects the fact that they are training employees within a company? The clarity, the boundaries, the processes that are needed, when to get HR involved, all of those sorts of things are really important. But are they present in generic mental health first aid training? Go away and check, because this is really important. When real situations happen, your staff need to know when they do need to talk to a manager, when they do need to refer to HR, when they do need to signpost. Actually, that uncertainty can cause hesitation and uncertainty for your mental health first aiders. The second problem is that actually mental health first aid and the way that it's been delivered is that it treats every organisation the same. But every organisation is not the same. You as an employer have a different approach, a different way of working, different escalation procedures, different HR procedures, different culture, different responsibilities for staff. A one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work. It can't prepare someone for your workplace, for your specific environment. So even if it's well-meaning, even if your training is well-meaning, it doesn't necessarily translate into the action that you need your mental health first aiders to do. We could talk about overload as the third issue. There's a lot. If you look at the mental health first aid course, there's a lot of stuff. You're training people to understand theory, you're training them to understand different models of mental health difficulties, and there's so much information that they have to try and remember and have to try and recall. But in a real moment, when someone is in crisis, when someone isn't overwhelmed, when someone is in distress, actually, they're sat in front of you, crying, they're sat in front of you, struggling. It's not about all of that theory and all the rest of it. You need a very simple to use structure, a process that can actually help them, knowing what to do, knowing what to say, what to do next. The fourth reason is actually, let's talk about real life. Let's talk about real workplace situations, things that could actually occur. A course full of lots of training, lots of theory around this is fantastic. And I'm not denying that actually teaching people about the theory isn't beneficial at all. But if you as a workplace are after results, or you're after an impact, then actually you've got to rehearse those real scenarios, those real situations, those awkward or emotional conversations, and getting people used to being silent, used to actually knowing, that sometimes it's all right not to know the answer, actually knowing that they're very unlikely to say the wrong thing. So, actually, it's going to affect mental health first aiders' confidence, and again, might make them feel like they don't feel confident in stepping in. And so there's this real gap with generic mental health first aid training. Actually, organisations, people like yourself, may absolutely, with the best intentions, have gone out to try and tick that box, to try and plug that gap, think that problem is solved, but actually, the training that's been delivered is wonderful, and probably has got very good feedback, along the way. But do your staff actually feel prepared and ready to respond when it matters? And that's what needs to change. So when we see that gap, actually, that's the point that we step in. that's the point that actually, I've spent a lot of time, we've spent a lot of time thinking about what will actually work in the workplace. We've built Mental Health First Responder as a course to help in reality, to help around what you're actually dealing with and what your staff are actually dealing with. And so, where generic mental health first aid training leaves people unsure, actually mental health first responder training is built specifically for the workplace. It gives employees clear guidance on what's appropriate, when to step in, when to signpost to HR, management or other support, so they know how to respond within your organization. So where generic training teaches treats every company as the same, actually mental health first responder is tailored to your organization. We shape it around your structure, your procedures, your escalation pathways and cultures, so it's relevant as they go through. For organizations who are coming to us, we've got this supplementary material to make sure that what we've got is matching your processes, your organizations, so that they've got this supplemental book that's customized to your procedures, so that they know what to do next, what happens next, and what to do next after the course. Now, where most mental health first aid training overwhelms people with theory, actually mental health first responder focuses on response. Strip away the unnecessarily complex stuff. Yes, they can do that, and that might be really interesting for them, and I'm sure it is really interesting for them. But actually, let's talk about crisis. Let's talk about overwhelm. Let's talk about people who are in distress. Actually, training only works if people feel able to use it, and that's why our approach, is practical, it's manageable, and it's backed by our willingness guarantee. If your staff come on our training, they don't feel more willing to help after the course, then actually we refund their places. That's literally the purpose of the willingness guarantee. So it's not just another mental health initiative we're throwing at you. Mental health first response is about giving your organization something that many workplaces do not have: a real mental health response capability with training that is practical, that is tailored and is designed for real situations. If you want to see how Mental Health First Responder works in practice, you can explore it in more detail on our website by clicking the link below.